This is the Mobile Tech Podcast, brought to you by worldpodcasts.com. Now here's your host, Tech Girl, Miriam Joie.
Brought to you by Mint Mobile. Stay tuned for a special offer at the end of the show. Hi, and welcome to the Mobile Tech Podcast. I'm your host, Miriam Joie, and today is Friday, September 6th, 2024, and we're in Berlin for IFA, and I'm here with Christian Looper.
Hello.
And Nick Gray.
Good morning.
Hi, everyone. We're doing this actually at 8 in the morning, so just for the love of the podcast. It's we haven't done a morning podcast.
No, it's always late night ones.
Yeah.
It's usually after a very long day and maybe a handful
very
of drinks.
long night.
So we're able to show you a daylight behind us today, for those of you watching on Patreon.
Lucky.
So we're at IFA. We've been here since Tuesday morning. And yesterday was the last press day. Today is the first official day of the show.
Yep.
So, but obviously press days is where we get a lot of the new products. I think it's fair to say that this is the 100th anniversary of IFA. I did a podcast 2 weeks ago with the CEO of IFA about the 100th anniversary. So check that out. And what's exciting to me is that this feels a little more, hectic, busy,
Feels bigger, huh?
Yeah, bigger than before.
I haven't been to a lot of IFAs, but actually this is only my second one, but it definitely feels bigger than last year.
Wouldn't you say that, Nick?
Based off of being at Showstoppers last night, that's kind of the first indication, the night before the show opens,
right,
of how many brands are here, but also how many press and media are here to cover the show. Compared to last year, it looks like there was double the amount of press
packed
in media. The line just to get a beer was a 10-minute line.
I agree.
I actually said, no, I got to go somewhere else. Yeah, and just based off of the amount of events that we've been invited to for pre-briefings and parties and other things outside of the show floor, they're just at least double of what it's going to be last year. And the amount of products that have been announced already is kind of staggering.
But the big caveat, I think, and this is going to be interesting to see what happens next year, is that the reason I think part of it that it's so busy this year is because Intel launched the Core Ultra chips and all the laptop manufacturers are here right now, right? And they're all basically there's so many laptops being launched. And it's not just Intel. There's also some AMD ones, and some Qualcomm has a new lower end chip available on the Snapdragon X. It's an 8-core chip. And so there's all these, I think, part of the reason it's busy is all these laptop manufacturers here. We've seen journalists that would never come to IFA here because
it's not typically much of a laptop event, is it?
It is not, and I think that I feel like that's not a bad thing. I'm excited that it's helping IFA. I'm just worried that if this doesn't become a tradition, where somehow this doesn't become a laptop show, that it's going to also get a little quieter next year again.
Yeah, IFA's always had a reputation to be a pseudo laptop show.
Has it?
Acer and Asus typically show up and have...
And Samsung used to.
Samsung, this is where Samsung used to announce their laptops. They've announced a new one. It was technically 2 days before the show, the new Samsung book. But the main, Chinese and Taiwanese laptop manufacturers have always had something show up, and Lenovo always has something. So it's been that. I think it got quiet the last 2 years with COVID.
There's COVID, right?
Some things that were announced.
And there was a lot at Computex as well. A lot of them, especially with the Snapdragon stuff, all of that, all of the big kind of...
I think the new chips this year,
that's
just
driving it for sure.
Burned a fire under everybody. They're let's put out something special.
And again, I said, I'm really excited. I just hope it doesn't affect IFA in a negative way going forward, where it's this spike for the 100th, and then it's just going to be back to normal after.
I don't know.
To be fair, it's exciting that it's 100 years of IFA, but I don't think anyone was it's 100 years of IFA. We should put out a laptop. I don't think it's more Intel finally gave us the chip we've been wanting for 5 years. Let's put out a laptop.
So let's actually talk about that, because obviously we haven't tested the laptops, but we talked to some analysts like Max and a bunch of other people, and the vibe I get from everyone is they're this is the real deal.
Yeah.
This is finally the chip that can compete with Apple M and Qualcomm Snapdragon X. So, I'm personally very excited about that. If the claims are true, that means that my ranting about, how everything should be ARM might not be necessarily true.
Yeah.
So what do you guys think of this? Like, I don't know. Like, I'm excited because anything that can advance computing to be more mobile, more battery
100%.
efficient, etc., more performance for weight and size, I'm on board.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm really kind of surprised. Like, I knew this chip would be good, but I'm hearing rumors that it's really good. Like, it possibly better than Snapdragon X.
I didn't necessarily assume that it would be good because, Intel has had for the past few years, we've kind of been waiting for a chip like this, and they haven't really delivered. And Qualcomm has, but now that Qualcomm has, Intel has it ready to go. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm excited too. Obviously, like you said, we haven't tried any of the new laptops, but
I think this is also an exciting time in kind of laptop history, Wintel history, if you want, because I think that with Apple coming out with the M1 chip in 2020, at this pivotal time, I feel, where COVID was happening, people were staying at home, they needed laptops, they needed to get on Zoom to do their work for their, remote work now. And Apple delivered this like game-changing chipset with the M1.
Yeah.
And now we've had, evolutions of that, and it's fine, but it hasn't been a super great breakthrough. I mean, the Max and the Pros and the other chip Ultras are great, but I think that it's lit a fire under Intel's butt, basically. And I wasn't sure they were going to be able to pull through because Intel's traditionally been very conservative. Like,
yeah, I think also it's hard to understate how big of a lead Apple has here because everyone's comparing it to the M3, which is not even the current generation base model M chip, and the lowest end M chip. We've got, like you said, the M Max and Ultra and all the other ones that, power the MacBook Pros, and they perform excellently. And neither Qualcomm nor Intel have a chip that's capable of that kind of performance while preserving efficiency yet.
Yeah, and the other thing to keep in mind is so far, every laptop I've seen at the show has a fan. It doesn't matter if it's Snapdragon X. It doesn't matter if it's an Intel Ultra, Core Ultra. It's like,
They
I'm
still
not
get hot.
Sure. Well, but the thing is, I've been using the Lenovo Slim 7X, these Snapdragon X Elite, the top of the line one, and I've never heard the fan go off. Now, mind you, for my use case, it's mostly the web. I don't edit video on it or anything. But I'm just saying, like, on that product, I get it. It could scale up that it needs the fan. But with that Snapdragon X 8 core, there are fans on those too. We've seen the exploded views on the slide decks.
Yeah. So, I mean, they do have day-to-day tasks. You're going to be fine. But they do kick in. Once that GPU kicks in and you're actually doing something that's taking full advantage of the GPU, that chip gets hot. If you do video editing or you're doing, 3D rendering or something like that, with that, or if you are gaming, because these laptops, while they're not the best for gaming, they still can do some casual gaming at some pretty decent frame rates, and that fan will kick in when you're doing that. And I think it's not necessarily for the day-to-day tasks. It's when you do want to push it, and it still needs it because that chip does get hot. I mean, it's like your smartphone, like, in day-to-day stuff, it does really great. But the second you load up Genshin Impact, saying, the phone starts to turn into an oven.
Apple sells most of their laptops without a fan.
Yeah.
And they still perform really well when pushed.
But
not as well as with a fan. I get that. I'm just saying, like, why isn't there a tier of laptops, especially on the Snapdragon side, especially on the low-end Snapdragon side, that's fanless?
Well, I think the low-end side is the particularly interesting side here too, because the base model Apple laptops are still $1,000,
right?
And that's not going to fly in the world of Windows.
Well, right now they're talking about $799 or something for the Snapdragon X.
Yeah, for the X Plus.
I think, they said the tier should be below $999.
Right.
So that's the high end.
Right.
It needs to be below $999.
So what if you don't put a fan to save money then? They don't do that. I don't get it.
It could be, but in the Windows world, you always want to say you can go this high. Why would you buy a laptop?
But the M3 fan versus fanless, the difference is not radical.
No, but so I mean, there's all this talk the last couple of years with the MacBooks and how great they are and how they've leapfrogged Windows. But you know what hasn't changed? Apple's market share. They're still 10-ish%.
Yeah, I know.
And I think it's one of those things where this is going to have more of an impact on the market than what Apple's had on the market, because really it hasn't moved the market at all. It's because there's this corporate world that says we're buying 150,000 laptops and we're not buying any Macs. Like they're going to stay with Windows because they've always stayed with Windows. They've built their infrastructure on Windows.
That makes sense.
And this is going to be where we're actually going to see a difference now that we have cheaper Qualcomm chips, which is nice, but also now we have the AMD chips and also the Intel chips, and they don't need to go to ARM. You know, we were actually discussing this over breakfast. If you have a corporate world where they've built custom applications that are built on Windows and they have 15 to 20 custom applications, they're not going to rewrite those to go run on ARM.
But the emulation is good enough.
But then you still have to test the emulation.
I see, yeah.
Right? Like that's still a cost investment to test the emulation for all your custom applications that you've built to make sure that they are working. If I don't have to test that, I don't have to invest money into it, and I can just buy an Intel version.
Does modern Windows, does it still run 32-bit apps? You know how Apple dropped 32-bit?
Oh, you can still run 32-bit apps.
Okay.
I mean, it's still there. Like, it's not necessarily, like, optimized for it, but you can still run them.
So don't you need to test for that?
No, but, like, it still supports it. It's, like, it's better for 64-bit, but like it's still.
But my point is like if it's optimized 64-bit and it's just supporting 32-bit.
But that testing was done a decade ago.
Then how is that different from emulation?
But that testing was done a decade ago.
Okay.
Like Microsoft's like nothing's changed.
Right.
Right.
Because 64-bit Windows has been around for a long time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm just curious because like I get the whole IT stuff, and I can also imagine some IT people saying, "Oh well, we want our laptops to have fans just in case our users need a bit more oomph." But at the same time, you know how much having a fan in a laptop adds dust, wear and tear. Like it's a moving part. So like to me, IT would want to not have fans on these machines that people are just using as Chromebooks. You know what I'm saying?
I think we're also putting a lot of expectations on laptop manufacturers that have been in the game for however many decades, building these laptops, and they've only had these chips. Presumably, they've had them for a while before they were announced to the public. But
Gen 1
these
products.
are first-generation products. The first-generation M series were literally just the same body with an M series chip.
Yeah, but they removed the fans. That's my point.
Not for the first generation.
No, all the M1 Airs didn't have fans.
Yeah,
the
but the
only
M1
M1 that had a fan from the get-go was the Touch Bar MacBook Pro
and the Mac Mini. But
and the
that's
Mac Mini,
different.
but Mac Mini doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, like
Matters
the
to me.
M1 Air went from fan to fanless when it switched from Intel to M, and nobody cared. And the M2 and the M3 MacBook Air, my M2 recording here, it's fanless too.
Yeah.
And I don't understand it. Like I think that there is room at the low end of the X and at the low end of the Intel Ultra and the low end of those AMD chips. Maybe not AMD because AMD is kind of more on the higher end in terms of performance.
Yeah.
I think there's room for fanless, and they've done
There's
fanless
absolutely
Intel before,
room
and
for
I'm
it.
just like, I don't get why.
And
this is the poster child for this.
That's true, but we also have yet to see the different form factors. Like they're all just standard laptops. They're going to be working on convertibles and that kind of thing.
Well, and I think we're getting into the weeds with this because I don't think there's a Windows user who's like, man, I'm not going to update my laptop because there's not a fanless option. They've had a fan their entire life. They're going to be okay with a fan with their next generation with this new chipset.
I know we're getting in the weeds. I'm just saying, like, I think there's something to be said about a thinner, lighter form factor.
100%. But
moving parts that cost less to make because it doesn't have this moving part.
I think most people are going to look at this and say, hi, my current laptop advertises it gets 12 hours of battery life, but it really gets 4.
Right.
This one
and
advertises...
it sounds like a jet engine the whole time.
And this one advertises it gets 28 hours of video playback, and
even if it gets 14,
it gets 22.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like that's the selling. They're like, oh my gosh, it's got a fan I can't handle.
Yeah. I know. I'm just surprised. I'm just saying, like, from an engineering point of view, it's just weird to me. You think they'd be flocking to that?
It's coming.
Hopefully.
I'm sure.
I'm getting that new Asus tablet thing. That's like a Surface. It's got the detachable keyboard, and it's using Snapdragon X Elite. Now it's the Elite, so fair enough.
The high end one.
When I read that there was a fan in the top, I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, this is stupid. Like that thing would be does not. You don't do that.
Yeah.
Anyway, but here's a question though, right? So we know that these chips are chasing M non-Pro, the base M model chips from Apple.
Yeah.
Like, do you think the M4 is going to change the game? I know on the iPad so far we've seen it, and it doesn't seem to make much of a difference.
Well,
Right? So the question is, when it comes out, like these new Macs are coming this fall with M4 chips. And to be frank, I just bought a iMac M3 2 months ago, and I've got an M2 MacBook Air, and I had an M1 MacBook Air before that. And I do not feel a difference between M1, M2, and M3 at all.
yeah,
Like
that's always been the story.
Even editing video, I don't know the difference.
I feel like Apple performance has always been iterative in a way that has ensured that it's always been the best.
Right.
And it's still iterative in the laptop line. And I don't think that needs to change because they perform so well.
But do you think now that these new laptops from the Windows world are out that are more efficient, that Apple's going to be, hold my beer and say, we have this M4 Pro or whatever, that's going to just blow us away, right? Because we don't know. We don't know what they're doing.
don't know, but like, we'd like to think that companies work that way when the M4 chip has been in development for, I don't know, 36 months.
Yeah.
Like it's not that they're like looking 3 years down the road and like, I think they're going to release it then.
Yeah, right.
Let's save our high end stuff. No, don't put, because the M1, M2, M3, they're all working, they're being developed in parallel at a 12-month cycle, right? And so they're working on the next one. They're working on the M5 already. And they're let's hold this back from the M4 and put it in the M5.
Yeah.
No, they want to put their best foot forward every single time.
Exactly.
And I think it does come down to Apple really doesn't, like, they want to deliver enough to make people happy, but they never push the boundaries completely until, it's the next real generation. Like when they went with ARM, like that's when they pushed the bound completely and blew us all away. Now that we've been blown away, we're like, it's just the next version.
I think our expectations are too high because
exactly
the Ultra and the Max and the Pro are all really, really great chips.
They're kind of all on
push
par.
the boundaries.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I just, it's just interesting because I haven't used any of the Pro, Max, or Ultra chips. So I've only used the base chips, and I don't really notice a huge difference. And now that I'm used to that level of performance after 4 years, I'm finally wanting more. Mm-hmm. I'm finally wanting, like, would it be nice if editing in, Audacity, like some of my plugins I run for the entire hour recording of the show can take, 30 seconds. I would like them to take 15 now. You know what I'm saying?
The Pro, even the MacBook Pro, I have a MacBook Pro, I think it has a Pro chip. It's so good.
Yeah, no,
it's so good. I do audio editing too. And
I was looking at maybe getting a Mac Mini.
I love the Mac Mini.
But the one with the better chip.
Yeah, I had a Mac Mini the new
ones are coming, so let's see.
M1 Pro Mac Mini for a while. I love that thing. It was so nice.
But so just remember, like, when you are actually working the day-to-day, you are doing the editing, it's working perfectly fine. It's just when you hit that export button and it kicks into gear and says, oh, now I'm working.
Never good enough.
So like even people would make fun of me. I have a Lenovo laptop running an AMD chip that's 4 years old that I've been using as my daily for travel whenever I go to tech conferences. And it edits 4K video just fine. I'm stacking like 3-4 layers of 4K video for when I'm doing my camera comparisons and all that, when I'm 3 cameras side by side 4K video. And then I hit the export button, and then it's like, this is where I see the difference of when it's really kicking in. So like my desktop PC would take 8 minutes to export. This one's taking 12.
Right.
I can live with 12. The issue, though, has been the battery life.
Right.
Like this laptop, it can do the work. It's just when I'm actually doing it and I export a video and I'm, taking it to a trade show, I can expect 4 hours of work time out of this laptop. And with these new generation things, I'm like, the working experience isn't going to be a difference. And yes, my export is going to take 10 minutes instead of the 12, but it's going to give me 10 hours of work time instead of 4.
Yeah.
And
well, that's
the real
that's
difference.
What the
Mac delivers.
Mac's delivering. Like every time I render video, I don't really see much of a hit on battery life.
Oh yeah.
Unless I do something massive.
I was probably 24 hours from door to door on the way here from San Francisco. And most of the time on the plane, I was using my laptop. I didn't plug it in once.
Yeah. Well, same with me. And
I was doing video editing
at 40%.
Yeah. Yeah.
I used it for 2 6-hour sessions essentially.
Yeah.
And doing little stuff like writing in a web browser and and like maybe a bit of photo and video editing, but not much. Like nothing bad.
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's exciting no matter what. The Intel and the Qualcomm stuff, it's the first generation, like we said, and I think they've all got, chips coming that are built to compete with the Pros and the Maxes and the Ultras, and
Yep.
And it could be going back to why does it have a fan? Why does it not? You have to remember that it's not the chipset makers. The laptop makers are trying to compete with each other. So Acer's like, we have 4 new laptops, and Asus is like, we have 5 new laptops. And then you start getting into, well, is the Asus
Lenovo,
laptop...
we have 132
70 new laptops from Lenovo. It's ridiculous. And so it's not the competition between the chipsets, it's the laptop makers in competition with each other.
Yeah.
And saying, well, ours can run this benchmark 5% faster, and no one wants to be at the bottom of that list. Right?
Yeah, but I think there's room for competition apart from the scores.
Yeah, but like this is the first generation, so none of them know how each one is delivering on these new platforms, and so they don't want to take the risk of being at the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
Get to generation 2 where they've had a full year of, okay, we've learned how to use these, we know what the competition is doing with these.
And they can
let's get interesting. Let's do a fanless version. Let's do a transformable version and get a new form factor in there where we have our footing, and now let's get creative.
Yeah, we've built our flagship model, and now we can diversify our lineup.
So which companies have been here and launched laptops? There's Lenovo, there's Asus, there's Acer, there's Honor.
Yeah.
Am I missing anyone? Samsung. But that was before the show.
That was like 2 days before the show. It's a show announcement. I mean, the first time it's going to be on display is at the Samsung booth.
Didn't they launch the Snapdragon X? Oh, those are the Intel ones.
Yeah, these are the Intel ones.
Okay, because I was like, didn't they just launch the Snapdragon X?
Yeah, they launched
like just before we got like the foldy phones.
The foldy phones, foldy boys.
Yeah, I think they launched it at Computex, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it is the new Intel ones that they're announcing, and so they were announced before the show, but the first time they're on display and for anybody to see is at.
I forget that Samsung makes laptops.
Me too.
I have such a hard time with that.
But that's because we're phone junkies.
Yeah, and it's like somehow I don't forget that Honor makes laptops.
Every so often, yes, they do.
I mean, I think it's
once a year they release one laptop.
I think it's because back in the day when they were part of Huawei made these MateBooks, and they're really great.
They're really good.
And I still have an old one floating around, and it still works great.
If you want a laptop that's running Windows, but you really want a Mac,
exactly,
you should get a Huawei.
Although I have to say, the Honor, now they've split apart and everything. That new Magic Book Art 14 or whatever it's called does not look very MacBook Airish. Like it looked like old MacBook. It's that weird tapered sides. Actually, I was really surprised it had so many ports that are like bulky ports.
Yeah, it's a point of competition for them.
but it's got USB-A and HDMI, and I get that. It's maybe competing more with the MacBook Pro.
It's competing with the Pro.
But they say it's thinner than a MacBook Air, yet it has all these ports. How can it be thinner than a MacBook Air that only has 2 USB-Cs and looks like, you look at the edge of this MacBook, and it looks like you could barely put any bigger ports than that. And yet theirs has bigger ports, and it's thinner.
What they were talking about is the display side. So if you look at your display side is probably like 3 to 4 millimeters.
The bezels?
No, like the thickness
of the display.
Oh,
yeah.
I see.
So their thickness, it was like 2 millimeters. Like it's so thin.
I see. So they're shaving it off on the display, not the base.
And so if you trim it off the display side and add it to the other side, you can add an HDMI port.
What's the CEO's name?
George. I think it is.
George. So, I mean, George was just going on up there. I'm like, dude, stop. What are you drinking? There's no way this is thinner with these ports.
We'll have a chance to go look at it today, I presume.
Because didn't they say it's an OLED display?
It's an OLED.
That's why. Like with the OLED, they can make it so much thinner.
So here's a question, because I don't use anything but Macs really, and
because the Mac's not an OLED.
No,
George Sao.
That's it. I'm starting to use Lenovo's OLED Snapdragon laptops and others OLED laptops, and I don't like the color calibration on them. You know how phones finally got to a point where
they weren't
it's
oversaturated.
Fine. Like, we look at them and it just like you put an LCD, a good IPS panel next to it, and they're the same. Whereas I cannot edit photos on the Lenovo Slim 7X. I haven't found a color profile that looks real to
Yeah.
me. And so it's really,
The colors pop a little too much.
it's just too saturated, and I can't work because
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not sure, am I looking at the right thing?
So the question is, have you been looking at the right thing, or are you finally looking at the right
Well,
thing?
that is a very good question, but I do feel that every time everybody looks at a Mac, they like what they see. So I think that's it.
Well,
They're well
or is it because they've been used to seeing that, right? And so that's where, like,
But my phone, which is not, as you see, it's a Pixel, does match.
could be.
I think the MacBooks are pretty well colored.
Yeah,
I mean,
and I
Apple's
And I think the modern smartphones are really
Targeting
good. But I
creators.
feel like OLED displays on PCs are still like
Yeah.
the fucking Wild West, man.
I know.
So I don't know. Again, I'm very excited to see all these advancements. And the Honor Magic Book Art 14 looks really nice.
Yeah, can we talk about this pop-out camera
I
for a
think
minute?
that's a great part.
I think
because
it's cool.
I thought at first, I was like, oh, magnetic camera is smart, but where do you put it? You're going to lose it.
No, it
No,
has a
it
little
stores
thingy,
right
yeah.
in there.
Stores right into the body of it.
You can flip it around. It's
Those bezels are so
presumably a higher end camera. I don't remember them talking about the camera specs that much, but if you can fit it into a bigger
it's a 4K
yeah,
camera. Like it. Here's the thing: no one loves their laptop webcam.
yeah, but also no one cares enough.
But
But that's the thing. Like, so if you can have something that's a little bit different,
yeah.
where
Plus, this can be flipped to
Do it.
face the other
Yeah.
way.
Yeah,
if you can have something that's a little bit different that gives you the same quality and also just removes the bezels around the screen so you can have a larger display in a smaller form factor,
yeah.
I think that's definitely worth paying a little bit extra for.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
I think
And,
it's
you know,
super
and I think you're right. Webcams are not a big priority for most of us, although because I think they've gotten better during COVID. But I think that, you know, I went from the M1 Air that I had a 720p camera, and it was really bad. It was the same one as in
Yeah.
Intel's.
They had those
But
forever.
and it improved simply because of the ISP from the M. And then in this one, the new chassis, they put a
Yeah,
better
put a
camera,
better
1080p one,
Yeah.
which is much better. And you notice it. But my iMac has an even better camera now.
Yeah.
And I'm actually like, wow. Like I look at myself on the webcam, I'm like, wow, this is actually like worth using now.
But you know what would be better if they would have showed, like, we have no bezel, we have no webcam, but you can get the Honor Magic V3 and unfold it and stick it over the top, and it'll work as your webcam. Because you could totally do that. And they're like, you just need to buy a $2,000 phone to use the webcam.
I don't know. At a certain level, it seems like webcam is an investment of diminishing returns because
yeah.
no one at 1080p it's good enough for video calls, and no one I don't think cares.
I mean, but it's interesting,
after
you know,
that.
because like I feel like Apple finally has at the point is they're really leveraging the ISP of their ARM-based SoCs to get the webcams to be somewhat acceptable.
Yeah.
But my Lenovo, the Snapdragon X, that camera is terrible. Like, and I'm like, I know they could do better because they have an ISP on there. So like, I think, as you said, it's Gen 1. I think there are a few things that still need pre-tweak. Like I came into the Snapdragon X thinking, okay, everything I'm used to on my Mac M's is going to be there because they've had all this time to copy it. But the webcam is one area where I was like,
Well, I
whoa.
mean,
This is
did
like
they
not
put a
remote.
$3 sensor in there? And
It looks
doesn't,
like they did.
It doesn't matter if you have an ISP, if you have a $3 sensor, it
even
doesn't
if you
matter.
turn and what's weird is they have a switch for HDR on off. Which why would you need that? I have it on all the time, and when you turn it on, it doesn't really help that much. And it's the ISP
Again,
switch,
the
right?
sensor.
Yeah, it's got to be like the tip of a needle.
It's a
size
needle
sensor.
point thread.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see if the smartphone manufacturers that were building laptops were better at
So that's
leveraging this
why-
kind of technology.
That's kind of what back to what you're saying, that this little thing is big enough that it could be that Honor put a decent enough sensor in there.
Well, I mean, Honor works in the smartphone space, and they're used to, hey, if you just give me a selfie camera sensor, that's better than 99%
So
of
here's a
laptop
question:
cameras.
Samsung makes laptops, as I keep forgetting.
Yeah.
Their cameras has got to be decent on those because they make phones and they know all this stuff and
Well, Samsung makes
I don't know.
everything.
smartphone camera sensors.
That's my point.
They should-
What's your experience been? Have you tested?
I
the
have not
Samsung?
tested the Samsung ones.
I haven't tested a Samsung laptop in the last 2 years, but even before that, they were good.
If you are listening and you have a Samsung Snapdragon X laptop, let us know in the comments and tell us if you think the camera is a big improvement. Because, the chipset makes a big difference in the ISP, but also you can't have like a potato sensor.
Yeah.
Just
If you have a potato, you'll get a potato. That's all you get.
Potatoes for all.
Potato in, potato
So,
out.
okay, we talked about the Honor. So the Honor super slim bezels, the materials are really nice, everything. It's just, I'm not quite sure I'm sold on that. You know how laptops come in kind of 3 essential designs? There's like the tapered old MacBook Air thing where it kind of, completely tapers on all corners.
Yeah.
And then like the original Air, like the one that had the little flap thing.
Yeah.
Then there is the wedge shape, like Zenbook, things early Zenbook, MacBook Air 11, MacBook Air 13, right?
Yeah.
Then there is the complete square rectangle, perfectly like the new Airs.
Yeah.
And then there's this category where they start on the edge, full width, and then they kind of like taper a little bit. And this kind of like curvy thing. There's a bit of, and that's what the Honor is like.
It feels a bit old school.
Yeah, it does feel a little bit.
But
old school.
I want to see it in person. I mean,
I think we're going to see it today.
Yeah.
The best thing about it, though, was the green color option.
Oh yeah, emerald.
Yeah, like I was like, I want a green laptop.
And look, I hate to say this, but this is so China. Emerald is a very popular color in China and in Taiwan as well. And like, the point is like, look, the OnePlus Open that I have, right? The
similar
greenish color, like that's such a hot color. And I don't understand why you don't see that more often.
I don't understand why they gave the laptop that color and then the phone, the Magic V3, they gave it a darker green.
A darker green.
It's like a forest green. And I'm like, I see the laptop after having the phone for 2 weeks. I'm like, I wish it was the other color.
Yeah. All right, let's talk about Lenovo because they had a lot of laptops. We're not going to get into details. The one that stood out for me were like this really affordable, cheap, basically Snapdragon X8 core model that, looked very generic, but very Lenovo, and like, the really little 13-inch one.
Yep.
And that one was like, because I'm always light and thin. That's what I look for. I look up for the smallest, thinnest laptop I find on the floor, and I just go, oh, play with it. And I have to say that thing didn't suck for whatever, $799.
Yeah, it was $799 list price. I think this is where this cheaper Snapdragon chip is going to make a difference. We're going to see some $799, but some other competitors are going to come in, within the next 6 months at CES too, coming right around the corner. $699 and
$599.
I don't think we'll get $599, but like I do think we might be able to see some $699. And if you get a $699 laptop that has
Copilot
decent performance, Copilot Plus, but you're getting good battery life. Like that's just a godsend. Like you could not right now. You go to Best Buy, you can pick up plenty of $699 laptops.
Yeah.
But they're terrible.
As a laptop, they're not terrible. Battery life, they're horrendous.
That's what I meant.
I'm curious to see if we get, like in the smartphone world, we often get manufacturers building cheaper phones using last year's chips. So I'm curious to see if in 2 years we have a current generation Snapdragon chip in a $499 laptop.
That's actually a good question.
Well, it comes
get
down
the battery
to,
life.
It comes down to the chipset maker of how long they're going to keep it out.
Mm-hmm.
And
if they just rebrand it as a lower
Qualcomm's
end.
well known for doing that, so I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Intel, I don't know. What about the only other thing that kind of stood out for me, other than we're going to talk about the Twist one, which is really cool, but the keyboard coating on they had like a soft touch keyboard coating on one of the laptops, and I'm really couldn't tell it very much apart from it's really subtle. And
personally, I think Lenovo has the best keyboards for laptops.
100%.
The best feel, ergonomics for everything. And the sound, depending on the laptop, is a little bit different each one. So you take it or leave it. But yeah, they had a soft touch coating that kind of felt like the soft touch phones of old. Do you remember the HTC One X?
Yeah.
Like if you remember the HTC One X, that soft touch polycarbonate, the keys had it. And it was a lighter color too. It was a cream, off-white cream.
Yeah.
And I think you mentioned while we were there, I was like, but use it for a year and what is it going to look like? Because everyone remembers the soft touch. Like if you had an HTC soft touch phone and you put it in your pocket, like denim jeans, like the color.
the new Pixel cases, this is the official case, is better than the previous ones by far. But it's still like I'm still trying. I'm starting to get a little bit of fuzz on the corners and stuff.
Yeah, I'm thinking like it's gonna feel really good, but it's gonna absorb. Like just because it is soft touch, that means there's friction there, and it's gonna absorb anything like your finger skin over the time.
My biggest concern,
you're gonna see which keys you've been typing on really quick.
Actually, my biggest concern longer term is not biggest concern because obviously shorter term, as you said, is more important. How nasty is your keyboard gonna look, especially for smokers and.
I can't imagine finger lickers.
I know.
I remember those white MacBooks from 15 years ago. They just
they were bad.
But it felt really
20
good.
20 years from now, when we open our drawers and discover
sticky keys,
keys gonna be sticky. Because this sticky plastics like so much. I just reopened my office earlier this year, and some devices I had that were perfect 2-3 years ago have now turned into goop.
Yeah.
And it's so sad because I kept them on purpose. I was like, my Evo 4G was one of them.
Soft touch.
It's now a pile of goo. It's so sad.
My G1 is starting to turn to goo.
Oh no.
My OG G1.
I have a Ubiquiti Amplify router, and the base station is turning into goo, and it's only 4 years old. It's annoying because you try to pick it up.
It's probably because
and it sticks to your finger.
Yeah, because routers get really hot.
Yeah, it
that's
does.
true. Yeah,
they like the heat probably isn't helping.
And it's white, so now it's white covered with all kinds of dust that's permanently encrusted into it.
Time for a new router.
Yeah, no, I've got one. I've got a Linksys VLUP, whatever. There's a Wi-Fi 7 one.
Well, so everybody was like making fun of Google's Nest router when they did the glossy finish on the outside.
Oh yeah,
maybe that
was the way to go.
Way to go, right?
Like you can just get a cloth and wipe it off, and the dust floats away. You're good. No sticky goo.
Oh man. Okay, let's move on to the Twist because the Twist. Okay, so this is what I like about Lenovo, but I'm also annoyed with them a bit because every event they have, like MWC, Computex, doesn't matter where you go, they have some kind of concept laptop, which is always super cool in some way.
To see that their engineers are like, it's not the next product, but we're thinking about.
But what I'm annoyed about is it is not the next product.
I know.
And we very rarely do ever see these things come to life.
I mean, we do.
Have we?
Eventually. Like, I don't know.
That translucent laptop we saw?
No, that translucent laptop is never coming to market.
Like, okay, so my point is.
But it is cool.
But this thing is cool. So, like, it kind of had an old school vibe to me because we haven't seen the tablet convertibles.
Yeah.
Where, in the early 2000s, when tablet PCs were becoming a thing, the convertibles, before the Surface, the convertibles were basically, this thing where you open the lid and you twist the lid and then you put it back down and it turns into a tablet. And that mechanism hasn't really been around much.
It doesn't detach, does it?
No. So when Lenovo first sent out the press release to us like a week ago, and I looked at this, and I was just skimming the article, and they're like, spinning laptop concept, and I looked at it. Does anyone remember the one laptop per child?
Yes, the OLPC. That's the same mechanism.
That had so it's a center joint spinning mechanism where you spin it around, fold it down, and it turns into a tablet.
Right.
And I was like, so your concept is the one laptop per child thing. And then I completely read the press release and like, So explain it to us.
So the is that this is not motorized. So back in the early 2000s, when they had this very commonly on 2-in-1s that weren't detachable, where the screen opens and you tilt it and then it closes and you can use it as a tablet. Before we did the yoga thing, and before we did the Surface thing, it's basically how in Silicon Valley there's a guy who does the describes his cars based on the doors. Right? So I'm about to do that. So there's three kinds. There's this, right? That's the Surface. Then there is yoga like this, and then there is the which is what we're talking about, the pivot. So the pivot is motorized, and it means that it can open and close motorized. It can open and then turn, rotate motorized. And so, of course, Lenovo made it dance.
So this is just a concept, right?
This is totally just a concept.
So why did they have to call it an AI PC? That's
Because it has voice recognition. You can tell it to close the lid, open the lid, and rotate.
Okay, and the AI part is with the webcam, so you can do presentation mode.
And it can follow you.
So with the webcam,
So
you
does
move
what's that
left
thing
and
physically
right.
follow you.
Yeah.
It moved left and right.
Front row,
center
or
stage.
center stage.
Yeah.
It
But
does
instead
center
of just
stage,
using the ultra wide and crop,
but instead of
just physically,
it actually rotates the thing. I have a video of it. It's great.
that's kind of cool.
So like practicality of it. I'm sorry. I can use my pinky to open the lid. And
I know.
close the lid of,
And also,
but fun and
it was fun.
entertaining.
Oh yeah.
100%.
And it was
Would you
slim and light too.
Would you actually use it? But like I love the fact that Lenovo shows up every time and says, "Look at this thing that our engineers dreamed up, and we could technically do it. There's nothing holding us back.
Yeah.
Do we need it? Who knows? But
And-
if you want something cool, we got you."
And they're always finished products. They don't look prototypey.
Yeah.
They don't look like the 3D printed or something is loose or not fitting properly or.
And still my favorite. I know we saw this year at MWC the transparent display, but my favorite was the rollable laptop display that they showed a year ago at MWC.
I remember that.
Right, yeah.
So they showed it side by side with the rollable phone.
Yeah,
right?
I remember
the
that.
riser.
The riser.
The riser. So, but like for me, I do video editing, and video editing on a desktop PC is great. You have a huge canvas, but once you do video editing on a laptop, you immediately get limited to how much screen real estate you have and what the form factor of that screen is. Like if it's ultra wide, it doesn't help because a lot of times you're stacking, vertically. And having a laptop that expands vertically, I'm like, as a video editor, I'm like, I need that right now, and it will fit in my backpack as I'm at a trade show. Yeah. Like I can't take around a 15-inch laptop and put that in the backpack.
Well, my favorite form factor that Lenovo actually realized and you could buy was the Yoga Book 9i or i9.
The dual screen.
The dual screen, because I use it on the stand with the external keyboard and mouse.
Yeah.
And I love having that vertical. You can put it horizontal too, side by side, but I like the vertical because I have like some kind of reference document at the top and my writing at the bottom.
It's perfect for video. The only issue with that is that it was an old Intel chip.
Yeah.
Battery life sucked, and it was heavy.
I know. I talked to Jeff, and I was like, "Make that as a Snapdragon X or an Intel Ultra." And he's like,
put the Intel
he looked
Ultra,
at me. He was just like,
still edit video.
La la la. So
well, that one's what? That one's a year old at this point.
It's over a year old.
Yeah, it's over a year old.
It's CS 2023.
Well, that's when they announced. I think like retail was like around summer.
Around Computex.
Yeah.
Great laptop. I still have it. I still use it. I love it. Okay, let's talk about Asus and Acer real quick, and then talk about other things in laptops. Asus. What do they do that's cool?
So they have the new Intel chip.
Of course.
One thing that's maybe not so cool is
Ceraluminum.
Ceraluminum, the name.
You remembered.
You remembered the name. Congratulations.
I know.
Now you can forget it. Like the name is ridiculous, but they're working with new metal alloys. But we talked about the soft touch keyboard, but this is a soft touch metal for the cover.
Yeah.
And it feels nice.
Yeah.
Like any smartphone with like the satin finish.
Yeah.
It's the satin finish, but then they have their cutout design on it with the lines.
Right, yeah.
The pinstripes on it.
It looks really hot. I haven't touched it yet,
so
but
nice.
I'm gonna have to go.
I'm going today actually to play with them.
Yeah,
so I'm
I'll
gonna try
have to do that too.
They're off the show floor, so you have to.
Yeah, you have to go to the special.
Maybe go with
Come
Miriam.
with me.
I'll come with you.
Yeah, the soft touch. It's like a powder coat finish.
It's amazing.
It feels really, really premium. And I'm like,
This
a lot of people.
This is not the first time they've done it.
No, they've done it a
So
couple
I've
times.
touched it before.
They've done it a couple times, but it's one of those things.
That's what she said.
You have to say it.
But I would say as far as like best looking laptop at the show floor this year, I would give it to that.
Okay.
It's thin, it's light. They have two colors. They have like
Green.
a space gray MacBook, and then they have like a lighter silver aluminum.
And this is their Zenbook.
Yeah, the Zenbook 14 S14. S14, and it's really nice. They also showed off on stage their new integration with
Oh,
McAfee.
God. Icky.
So
No
we
thanks.
yet have another laptop manufacturer that's going to be pre-installing some bloatware that you'll immediately want to
That's
remove.
what I hate about Lenovo's.
But what they did show was because of all these AI things, the new version of McAfee is doing AI deepfake recognition. So it's running in the background all the time. But if you're watching a video where it recognizes that it is deepfaked, it'll have a little pop-up saying the video you're watching there. It tells you like X percentage is we've recognized it, and it'll tell you so like if you're watching a YouTube video, it's watching the video ahead of you. It says this video's 8 minutes long. You've watched 30 seconds. We've analyzed all 8 minutes, and there's 6 minutes of deepfake in this video.
But that means they're watching what you're watching.
Correct.
Ugh.
No.
But everybody's watching what you're watching, so. If you're okay,
It's
and-
McAfee
One
watching
less.
what you're watching.
Exactly. So it's not included. You don't get a 1 year free subscription. You have to pay extra for it, and it is McAfee, so it is going to bug you every
It's going to
30
be deleted
minutes.
as soon as I get the
Delete
laptop.
it.
Every 30 minutes, it will give you a pop up, probably saying, "Pay us $20 a month for
Yeah.
this." Or I don't know how much.
Be real careful when you set up these laptops because they will sign you hell up for them.
They will sign you up for OneDrive, man. My gosh.
Oh, OneDrive, I
Microsoft,
hate it.
stop it.
I know Rich is going to be mad at us because Rich loves OneDrive.
Yeah, Rich, if you want OneDrive, go ahead, use it. I
Mr.
want to
Woods,
install it.
XDA. Okay, so and then what did Acer bring anything to the table? I kind of tuned out during that press conference. It
but
just
the-
wasn't doing it for me.
Asus also had their 2-in-1.
Oh,
Their
cool.
transformable, detachable
like
keyboard. with
okay,
the
do the
Snapdragon.
thing. Is it
that's the
like
Snapdragon.
this? Is it like this, or is it like?
No, it's like this.
The keyboard comes off.
So it's like this.
Yeah,
it's one of those.
Yeah, it's one of these. The external case feels like there's like those backpack makers that are like we're about hiking outdoors and we have these cool new materials, but we have a cool design too.
Mhm.
They're like trying to be really hard into being cool
Like
and
all
outdoorsy.
the cool laptop
that-
bags that we
that-
carry.
that's the back of the laptop,
Ah.
and it because there's so many that are just like we covered the back and we're done. They actually put some design intent into it, and it looks cool. And the one I had was a lighter green color. It like they have a variety of different color options too.
Nice.
It looks nice. Yeah.
I love that we've developed, for those of you watching on video on Patreon, we've developed like gestures to represent the different types of 2-in-1s.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing.
We should standardize
We
it.
should standardize it.
We should license it.
License it. Yeah.
Little stickers with the hand.
When we go to the laptop manufacturers, are you doing a this or a this? Or
Yes.
$5,000.
5,000. Buy now.
Keynote, and this laptop will be a this.
It will be certified Mobile Tech Podcast this. Oh, goodness. All right. So, Acer, anything stand out at Acer?
Acer, they had another slew of laptops that were similar chipsets. The one thing they did announce that they haven't had yet is a portable gaming handheld device.
Oh, yeah.
So it was the Acer Nitro Blaze X
What a
running
name.
an AMD chipset.
See, this,
Okay.
I like that he's got like everything on his phone.
I've got some notes
You're
going.
prepared.
You're prepared.
Wow,
Like
smart.
you did your homework, contrary to me, who just decided to hit.
You know, when you have a trade show and there's 1,000 things announced and there's only like
Yeah.
10 things that are actually interesting, you got to take notes.
That's true.
10
yeah.
laptops.
10 laptops.
What's the price point on that one?
I
Don't remember.
don't remember the price point because we didn't stay the whole time. We had to
No,
jet
we-
off to another
we had
press
to go.
conference. But I'm going to go back to their booth today to get some hands-on time with it. It looked interesting. Like, yes, every manufacturer has their own version of this, but this actually had a smaller display than most other ones.
Okay.
I believe it was a 7-inch display
Yeah.
versus Asus's one is like an 8-inch and
7-inch 1080p display, 144 hertz.
100. It's not an OLED, but
It's fine.
No, not an OLED.
so it does have some chunky bezels around
And it's
it, but-
AMD, right?
yes.
Yeah, it's the AMD.
Ryzen.
Yeah, it was a Ryzen 7
Yeah.
something. I forget which one.
Ryzen 7 something.
But yeah, it looks interesting. I think this category that's really emerged over the last 2 years of these handheld portable gaming devices running laptop chipsets. I mean, Steam you should get all the credit here
Yeah,
for
100%.
the Steam Deck. Like they've created a new category.
Yeah.
They're still leading in that category, but there's a lot of
There's
competition.
a lot of company. Yeah, it's a lot of good.
There's Techno
products.
with that handheld thing that has the glasses attached to it.
Yeah, the Techno one, it's built into the controller.
Right.
Like you just get a controller, and then you get the
AR glasses.
AR glasses on.
Yeah.
The Acer does not have pricing yet. So.
No.
Okay.
That Techno was at MWC actually. Any other laptop manufacturers or laptops?
I'm sure there are, but
Probably.
that's all I've seen so far.
Yeah.
Oh, that's all?
Since you have your awards, you probably know what's going on. You would probably know.
We're still deciding our awards. So I put a feeler out to my team. I was like, what else did you see that's
Right,
stuff?
exactly.
Yeah.
So speaking of, what other things have you seen that are cool? Because now there haven't been really, other than the Magic V3, that is Honor's new ultra thin 9.2 millimeter
Thinnest foldable
phone of all time.
Yep.
Other than
Globally.
that, we haven't seen any phones here.
There is a new HMD phone.
Which is the Barbie phone?
No, the Barbie phone, it was announced like a week ago. The new phone that they're announcing today, I think, I have to double check the embargo,
Got the Skyline here.
is their modular
Love
phone.
Oh, modular.
Their modular phone. So think
HMD Skyline. So
think
sexy.
think Moto Mods,
Yeah.
which was like 8 years
so
ago.
I should go by their booth, is what
So
you're saying.
HMD is doing it, and it's more of based off of what they showed on the pre-brief is a modular concept design that's
So it's
essentially
it's concept.
no, it's real. It's essentially open source.
Oh, so it's Moto
you-
Mods.
It's Moto Mods, but anybody can make a mod.
Can make a mod.
And the concepts that they were showing off of third parties making mods for them already are more industrial type. Here's a thermal camera.
Oh, wow.
Here's a QR code scanner. Here's a so commercial type stuff.
Yeah.
They show so it doesn't have wireless charging, but you can get a mod that adds wireless.
Right.
Like we didn't want to spend $3, so here's a $15 or a $30 mod
Well,
to add wireless charging. So
That's
things
fair.
like that. So it's essentially pogo pins on the back that replicate USB-C.
right.
And so you just have to match up the pogo pins and match up the size for the accessory,
Yeah.
and you get that. They showed off a couple different concepts. It's not as sleek as Moto Mods was
Okay.
8 years ago.
Yeah.
So take that as you will. It's nice to see we have somebody else dipping their toe in the modular
that's
phone
super
space,
cool.
but everyone who has dipped their toe in the modular phone space
Has
gave up
probably
on
left.
it a long time ago.
Yeah. I'm going to check it out. But yeah, so there's also TCL. They did Next Paper phone.
The Next
I think
Paper
that's a
phone.
new one.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's not the first Next Paper phone. They've done a few, I think a couple now at least. But this is an evolution of that. So I want to check it out. Are the specs better? Because the TCL phones have been kind of mid-rangey.
It's still a mid-rangey phone. Yeah, it's a
Or is it-
TCL 50 Pro Next Paper 5G.
So what's the specs on that?
It's a mid-range. I think it's a Snapdragon 7 series.
Okay, so it's not like Moto G bottom.
No,
Because TCL's really good
yeah.
at that too.
No, I think it's 7 Gen 3, if I recall. So it's not an amazing phone, but it's going to be a decent mid-range.
But that
cool
Next
concept.
Paper display is really cool. If you see it
Yeah.
in person,
yeah, if on paper, if you're reading an article about this and looking at the display, it looks washed out. It doesn't have that pop of color saturation. But once you hold it in your hand and you look at it and you go to different lighting
the
conditions,
contrast is really good. Actually.
the contrast is really good, but like you don't get that. I'm looking at your phone across the room right now, and I see the glare from the window behind us.
Yeah, exactly.
You
Yeah.
don't get any of that.
Am I looking at this right? It has a slider to engage max ink mode.
Max Ink.
I believe so. I haven't held it, so I've only seen some pictures. But I believe, yeah, there's a slider on
Dedicated,
the side.
that's cool.
Yeah, so you increase the brightness of
And
the
it
display or
turns
the
the-
contrast.
And it turns it monochrome.
It turns it to max ink.
Yeah. So I need to go
I mean,
go to the TCL.
I can't
booth.
add anything to that. That's like, okay, yeah, great.
That makes
Good
sense.
But there's other things too. Like Anchor showed up with like a whole like all
Yeah.
of Anchor's brands. Nebula,
Bunch of new headphones.
new
Everything.
headphones, new home security stuff.
There's
Yeah, the Soundcore headphones.
there's some interesting headphones in general at IFA.
Tell us.
Yeah, a couple of the pro audio brands are dipping their toes more into consumer space.
So Bayer and stuff.
Biodynamic and
What do they do?
AKG. Just built really good headphones. I mean, they're built to compete with the Sonys and the Boses.
Okay, so
but
True Wireless, wireless.
The question is, are
over-ear, yeah.
are
Over
the
ear.
prices, because Bayer Dynamics always like $100 more.
Bayers are $399,
Not
Okay,
bad.
so they're like $50
and the
more.
AKGs are $349.
But AKG Bio made wireless headphones with Bluetooth and ANC.
Yeah, but they kind of stopped for a couple years,
They-
and then
okay.
these look really nice. I tried out both of them actually, and
Do
they sound pretty
like
good.
the Bears normally do? Because that's what I love about them. Because I use them for
I
wired editing at home.
I had like 10 seconds of listening in a little room. They sounded good, and I think what's important is that they offer the features, right? Because you know,
People
in that price range of headphones with the Sonys and the Boses, people expect the features. And
cool.
yeah,
Nice to have more options.
Yep.
And I'm excited because those are two brands that I think make really good sounding headphones, like Sennheiser does as well.
Yeah, and AKG specifically had some interesting times with the Samsung of it all and the Harman and what's going to happen with AKG, and now they're kind of back to AKG
nice
proper. So,
awesome. That's good to know.
Yeah.
We touched on the Honor Magic V3 a little bit. I do think we should really mention quickly how this press conference was ridiculous again, as always, when it comes to comparing the V3 to all the other phones. How they compared it primarily against the iPhone because they felt that the other folding phones are not competitive.
Well, I get the comparison in terms of thickness.
Hardware.
In terms of hardware.
I think hardware Honor nails it, but then the user experience isn't there, right?
Well,
with the software and their AI features are very gimmicky, more so I think than the competition. So I think that's
well. Tell me this: how from the competition, from the Googles and the Samsungs, how often do you use the AI features?
Other than photography and editing and stuff, never.
Yeah, me neither. So I don't know if I care that the AI features are gimmicky.
And when I do, there are
use
Gemini features that are baked into Google Apps.
Yeah.
I don't actually use a manufacturer's specific set of
Except for
AI
Google's.
features. Well, but it's their OS.
Yeah.
Like it's Android really. Gemini's going to end up baked into Android at some point, and Samsung, and it's already like that. The circle to search, that's Samsung came out with it, but it's really a Google thing. So.
Yeah.
So going back to Honor really quick and their comparison to Samsung, they've taken this to a whole new level. I don't know if you guys got the press release from today that they sent out saying Honor Magic V3 is the #1 foldable according to Samsung.
Oh yes. Oh, this is
highest on this?
Yes. So they've they went out and found people who had the name Samsung and interviewed them, and there's like 2 or 3 different people, and they got quotes from Mr. Samsung about the Honor Magic V3. And these are people who are not related to the industry at all. He's a recruiter in Glasgow or a biomedical science graduate in London. And they have no connection to technology whatsoever. But they went out and found people that were named Samsung and asked them about the Honor Magic V3 and why it is better.
I want to know what they asked
foldable.
specifically. What was the wording of those questions?
Yeah, so some of the quotes are definitely #1 in my list of foldable phones. This phone is so much thinner and lighter than my current phone. Just easily the best foldable phone. This is a recruiter in Glasgow. I don't know what he does.
I strangely did not get that press release. I feel slighted.
It came through this morning, and
it might have gone to junk.
I checked. It's not my junk.
As Honor makes some really good foldable devices. They still need to work on their software. Their software needs a lot of work, and their cameras need a lot of work with their foldables. The non-foldables do better with the camera.
Yeah.
But they are pushing this comparison with Samsung so hard.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Just because they have a thinner device. A thinner device does not make a better device.
I agree.
Focus on what you're good at. You're good at the industrial design. Congratulations. But you don't need to throw shade at the competition every single. Stand out on your own without pushing somebody else
fix
into the
the things that you haven't fixed since 2018 because your UI looks like Huawei 2018.
Correct.
And we've been telling them that for 4 years.
Yeah. So I've used the phone for the last 2.5 weeks or so. It's a decent phone. Again, they have not given us good software to actually use a foldable device. I think it's one of the worst software experiences for a foldables.
Okay.
I think OnePlus is still leading the game on that. The 3-tile panel move around.
So good.
That's cool.
It's so
I've been
good. I
using
wish
the-
the Pixel had that.
I agree.
Yeah.
I've been using the OnePlus Pad too, and
Oh, that has it too?
it has it too,
Oh, that's cool.
and it's finally making an Android tablet somewhat
multitask.
user friendly. Yeah, it's got.
I still have that in the box. I didn't know the tablet had it, so I'm excited to unbox
Yeah,
it.
no,
Yeah.
it's a good. Actually, it's probably the best Android tablet I've ever used. It really is good. It's
Wow.
really, really good.
I mean, if
But Android tablets, the apps and
they come and go. No, but like if you can have a better user experience with multi-window, and then you don't have to have a full screen smartphone app.
Yeah.
But that's what we get on the Honor smartphones with foldables. It's like they need to find a better way to give us a user experience. They're trying to give us these multi-device experiences where it connects to your laptop and your laptop connects to your tablet. Nobody works that way.
No.
I know they want people to
Outside
work
of
that
Apple.
way, but even inside of Apple, most people still don't. Like the features are there. Like you might use your tablet as a secondary display, but how often are you dragging and dropping files between the two?
Well, use AirDrop, but it's not drag and
but like
drop thing.
you're using both side by side, and I'm like, oh, while I have you side by side, let me drag a file from my laptop to my tablet. That's not what people want to do. File transfer is boring, and it's something even somebody who does it a lot. I don't do it that often.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that a lot of the continuity features at Apple are so intuitive and so kind of like just working in there that you naturally
You don't need to
try
talk
to
about
use
it. You
it.
forget about
The
it.
one or two times that you do use it,
And
it
then-
just
you
works.
just
and
know
then you
that
go
you
to
forget.
another, then you go to another ecosystem. You're like, oh, I can't do that.
I mean, the ecosystem play is certainly nothing new, but it's hard for anyone who's not Apple,
Right.
to do it and do it well.
Yeah, 100%.
I can't imagine. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are people, hardcore Honor fans out there who buy all Honor laptops and they're Honor.
I think on the Huawei world in China that exists.
Yeah.
I think China has some pretty I think Xiaomi is another ecosystem where that's very strong, but it's only in China really.
Yeah.
Like they have the car, right? Like,
Yeah, well,
I mean, it's like, you can drag and drop to your car. Like,
It's
come
the
on.
eco promise come into bear.
Oh my God, the Leco. Oh, wow. I still have that phone.
Do you?
I kept it in my museum. Yeah.
R.I.P.
Leco Le 3 or whatever it was.
Yeah, look. Yeah.
Leica 3. What?
What? It was a nice phone at the time with crappy software.
Mhm.
We should wrap up. Any final thoughts? Anything that stands out still that you're like, we need to just really briefly talk about?
Not necessarily on products. Honestly, like today is my day to roam the show floor,
Yeah,
and
same.
we've talked about a lot. There's a lot that we haven't talked about that I just want to go see.
Yeah.
Which compared to last year and the year before
We
hasn't
didn't
been
have
the
that.
case.
I know.
So this is exciting. Like trade shows took a big hit because of COVID, and this feels like that never happened.
Yeah.
Let's get back to we are back in business.
It's taken
and-
4 years. Yeah.
and that's just exciting as for us. Like this is what we do for a living, and showing up to a trade show and there's nothing to talk about is the worst thing ever. You start
Yeah.
questioning, like, what am I doing here? And this year, I know exactly what I'm doing here.
Oh,
I'm going
goodness.
to go look at some cool products, and it's going to be fun.
I went to CES 2022.
Oh yeah, I was there too. There was nothing to do.
There was nothing.
There is lots of stuff here. Like, there's a bunch of smart home stuff that I have.
LG has cute.
Yeah, I'm going to
Go to
the
the
first
LG
thing
booth.
I'm doing is
LG
going
has
to the
cute
LG
little
booth.
robots.
Cute little
and,
robots.
I mean, LG appliances. I know there's Samsung too, but I had an LG washer and dryer, and ever since then,
Not going back.
I have one now. Yeah, same.
They're so good.
I have.
And now you get to see the stuff that is like super high end there and stuff that you can't afford.
I
this is the
reviewed an
5
LG washer.
Have
and
you
dryer.
like the super high end ones?
Yeah, like last year.
Oh, they're
Yeah.
so nice.
Yeah, really nice.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, LG booth is definitely always a good one.
Yeah.
And what else stood out? I don't know. I mean,
New stuff from Akara for smart home fans.
yeah, and there's also like
Yeah, they have
Yaber and
smart door
Yaber.
lock.
Is it Yaber
Yeah,
or
you-
Yaber?
We don't. The CEO and the video person don't know. They disagree on the name. But yeah, Yaber
Good
has
projectors.
a new portable projector that looks really
Really
good
cool.
with like a built-in decent speaker system, but also has a wireless subwoofer that you can add on to, because those small portable projectors usually don't have great audio. So excited to check that out at the booth.
Yeah, me too. So that's it, folks. We did a quick show. I want to let you know that I recorded this with a new mic today called the Me Creator. You see, Me Creator. I don't know. It's anyway. It's by Austrian Audio. It's a pretty high end company. Let me know in the comments what you think of the sound quality. Yeah, because I've tested it, so I know it works and it's passed my tests. But
does it use AI to give me a real radio voice?
No, it's not. It's just a dumb mic. There's no AI here.
It looks cool.
But it does look super cool. And so I want to thank them for sending me this. They sent it to me like 2 months ago. And they're like, when are you going to try it for your podcast? I'm like, I think I'm just going to baptism by fire, take it to a trade show.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So do you guys want to tell folks where they can find you on the internet, Christian?
Find me on Threads, Christian DeLupa. I'm sure if you search it and spell it wrong, it'll still probably pop up. I freelance for a bunch of different publications. Just
so many.
Look me up. You'll find me.
Christian does car stuff too. So.
I do some car stuff too. Yeah. Cool. We're going to do our EV special podcast soon.
We are going to do an EV special.
Yeah.
So stay tuned for that. Nick?
You can find me at fandroid.com or on social media at fandroid for Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Actually, Instagram and TikTok add an S at the end because
Androids.
Some jerk decided to take those before we did.
Oh,
rough.
But at the same time, yeah, you do some really cool videos on like short videos. So check. I really think your short video game is.
And Christian does too.
I do tons of them.
Christian does too.
He does some good short.
Yeah, you can find me on TikTok or Instagram at Tech Bandicoot. That's
Bandicoot. I love it. It's good.
You didn't know?
I think I did, but I just like,
you better follow me.
I'm not on TikTok, but I am following you everywhere else. So, folks, you know where to find me on the internet at Tankgirl, TNKGRL, like the comic book character, drop all the vowels, so TNKGRL. I'm on the Twitter. I'm on the Threads a lot. So, Threads has really become my new thing. And then, there's Facebook, Insta. Insta is really fun too. Not on TikTok. I'm too old for that. And then of course the podcast lives at mobiletechpodcast.com. We're on all the major platforms. There is also a YouTube channel, youtube.com/mobiletechpodcast. You can subscribe to for additional content. And you know how YouTube works. So like, subscribe, tell your friends, click the bell, all that stuff. Comment about the podcast. The podcast also now exists at Mobile Tech More on YouTube, which is my second channel, which is basically where the RSS feed of my podcast ends up being published. Cool. Because when they switched over to YouTube Music, they stopped having podcasts on Google Podcasts.
That's a whole thing.
And to get them on YouTube Music, you have to have a YouTube channel for that. I didn't want to kind of corrupt my data and my stats of my main channel so I just created the second channel.
So I can see the whole video thing at Mobile Tech More.
No, this is just for the audio. This is the audio one. It creates a video from the audio by pulling the RSS.
Cool.
So if you subscribe basically to the podcast on YouTube Music, what you're really subscribing to is a playlist on a YouTube channel called Mobile Tech More. And then, of course, Patreon. So patreon.com/Tankgirl, patreon.com/TNKGRL. That's where the video version lives.
Yeah.
So Patreon, you pay $5 a month. Every week you get a video version a day in advance. You can watch it, you can listen to it, and then in your favorite podcast app, a day later, your audio version will pop up for free.
Yep.
So that's basically the deal. And if you can help me out through Patreon, that would be fantastic. And then, also there is a link in the show notes to a PayPal button that you can donate one time if you don't want to use Patreon. That would also be awesome. And finally, I want to thank our sponsor, Mint Mobile. They're great. They now support roaming with an additional fee and free roaming in Canada. So check them out. You know I review a lot of phones, so I'm constantly juggling multiple devices. While that's fun, it also means I'm spending a lot of money for wireless service on multiple SIMs. Thankfully, there's Mint Mobile, and that's who I'm teaming up with for today's podcast. If you want to save money on your wireless service, switch to Mint Mobile. You've probably seen the Mint Mobile ads featuring Ryan Reynolds, but let me quickly tell you how fantastic their service is, especially for tech-savvy early adopters like us. Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for as low as $15 a month, and you don't have to sacrifice any coverage, speed, or data. They're built on the nation's largest 5G network. They keep costs low because they sell direct to you online. They cut out the retail stores and salespeople. Why should you pay more than you have to for access to the same network? In my experience testing phones, Mint Mobile delivers the same data speeds and call quality as the big three for a fraction of the cost. Switching to Mint is super easy. Thanks to their eSIMs, you can sign up and activate immediately right on your phone from the comfort of your home. No more standing around waiting in line at a big wireless store. You can keep your current devices and phone number and easily switch services. And if your phone isn't eSIM compatible, Mint will ship you a new SIM card free of charge. The whole process only takes 15 minutes, and if you get stuck, Mint has a great customer service team to get you through it. All Mint Mobile plans include unlimited nationwide talk and text, plus lightning-fast 5G and free mobile hotspot. Mint will show you how much data you use each month and recommend plans that save you money. Mint also offers a modern family plan that lets you set up a super affordable family plan with as little as 2 lines. Use my link, mintmobile.com/mobiletech, to get premium wireless starting at $15 a month. Stop paying more than you need on your wireless bill and start saving big with Mint Mobile. So thanks, guys, for being on the show.
Absolutely.
Once again, we've
Always
done
a pleasure.
another
Thanks for having me.
great podcast in a trade show. I kind of love doing those. They're really great.
Definitely.
Doing them in person is so much nicer.
Oh, yeah.
Stay tuned. We'll have another podcast next week. And until then, folks, cheers, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
This has been the Mobile Tech Podcast with Tank Girl, proudly presented by worldpodcasts.com. You can visit us online at mobiletechpodcast.com.